Hi everyone, welcome to Hyperplane Games. It's Simon here with Wild True Learn, a programming game that has melted my brain. The developers contacted me and said, we think that this game would be really up your street. Have a go. That was over a month ago, and it's taken me so long to get to a point in the game where I felt, do I feel like I'm actually going to give this justice? Because it has absolutely melted my brain. You play as a programmer who is learning about machine learning, and it puts it all into this task tree where you learn about machine learning in the real world through time. So right the way at the very beginning, when the first person tries to make AI, all the way through to really complex puzzles that you solve then later on in the game. And you do that by placing nodes of stuff into this pit to try and sort information out. Each node has its own in-game and real-world example, and then links to a YouTube video or a Wikipedia style page so that you can learn more about it in a general context. Those videos push stuff off to quite high level scientific videos though, so be prepared to be dumbfounded by language. Once you've then put your nodes in place and put your sorting system through, you then run the program, and then you'll get a gold, silver, bronze or a fail, depending on how fast you've done the process, how efficient it was, and how accurate the stuff is itself. Now that was the very first one. It then starts going on to merging together colours and shapes so that you're sorting data into more and more pots as you go along. I'm sticking very high level here because once you go off the main up branch of the tree, you then start having to build lots of different nodes together. So it might be that you need to place half of the stuff into a trash bin so that it just deletes the data. It might mean that you need several passes through of the same node again and again to sort data out into branching trees. And it can get very complicated very quickly. Now this tree continues to grow and grow and grow over time, and then it kind of ungrays itself the further up you go. As well as jobs, I think you'll see it a little bit later on, you can also invest in startup companies where you can take your nodes to companies to solve real world problems as well. Here you can see I'm starting to sort stuff out into terms of decision trees again. So it always introduces a node, tells you about it, and then kind of lets you get going. What I did find though from this game was that sometimes where you're jumping from different nodes to different nodes, it's like it gives you one, then abandons it. And so you're learning something completely different in the next kind of run around. And it's a bit like, how does this relate to one to the other? And I couldn't get gold in my first playthrough of a lot of stuff. What you'll see though later on in the video is that I start visiting a shop, which means that I can upgrade my processing time and speed and accuracy as well of the data passing through, as well as the node production to pass the data through. So you can see me test running stuff here. And because I've purposely not pushed that third arrow to anything, you can see the data starts to back up and cause problems and my whole system crashes. So you can fail stuff for being out of time. You can fail it for accuracy as well, because the data doesn't get through to the other side in a timely or efficient or effective or accurate manner. As well as base nodes, you also have custom nodes, which is kind of like set patterns that you get alongside stuff, which often can be faster. And the game starts to allow you to move away from base nodes to custom stuff that you've picked up from previous levels, or from stuff that is in the DLL nodes. Now, DLL nodes are things that you've built yourself. These I haven't really dived too much into because that's where my brain starts to melt, because I can't work out how you can build stuff and start to tweak and alter things, because I can see these nodes of how things work. I'm like, oh, if I could just change that parameter to that parameter, then that will help me solve X, Y, and Z in different levels. And I can see it, but I can't do it. And then I don't know if that's just me being thick and not using the tools that I've got at hand, or if it's just me thinking too much like in an outside world fact. And I'm like, this is how I would solve it in my project management head. So it's a little bit frustrating from that side. Also, I would say that sometimes where you're moving from one thing to another, sometimes it just needs a little bit more of a wraparound context as to how things work. Because what I found was that I was being introduced to new nodes, and sometimes I'd be like, well, I don't understand how that really helps me here, there, and whatever. Now you can see I'm getting a gold in this level here, but and there you go, I've released my stuff out into the wild, I get cash in. There is a kind of a businessy element that's going on behind the scenes because you're trying to be a startup and a programmer yourself. So not only do you have money that you need to go through, you've got startups that you can invest shares in to see whether you've bought or sell your shares, put in your processes and send out that, and then that's like a job done. You can see me adjusting my shares before I dive in here. I don't go for the self-driving car at this point in time, but I'll show you some gameplay of it later. But what the game and the big step up that kind of comes after you've gone around and bought nodes and bought improvements is that it starts to translate this abstract puzzle into the real world. So you saw the example briefly there of a self-driving car. I'll show you some gameplay now of how that then transpires. So you're trying to program the computer to know that an obstacle is coming. So do I move left? Do I move right? Do I slow down? What do I do to try and solve this real world problem? And that's where I think this game will really excel once it goes further. And it's the direction I'd really like to see the game take. I think showing it in abstract form works really well to start to understand what each node and what each decision tree does. But they need like a couple of examples of the same thing, because the difficulty spikes and jumps in Brain make my head hurt. And I didn't quite get it. So a little bit more around that to try and like usher us on a bit is great. And as a learning resource, when you've got the YouTube videos and the like Wikipedia and GitHub like pages and stuff like that, very, very handy to have for anyone that's looking for exams or potential entry-level jobs to get into this field. I think you would do well here. But where it starts to put it into a real-world context kind of made me go, so that's what this is going for, and that's what that's trying to get at. And things started to click together for me a bit more. So if there's more examples of that show this increasing complexity, that's all great. What I'll also say is that the game has great replayability factor as well, because where you're upgrading your background features and unlocking new nodes, what I'd really like to be able to do and to really go for is to then build out my custom nodes in the DLL nodes section and then bring that into the task tree here, so that where you can see like I've got some bronzes and so on and so forth, I can then upgrade those, make them faster and so on and so forth. I did see a note from the developer in some of the discussions on forum, and they said it might not have been from the developer, to be fair, but it was there is no cheating in programming, only making things better. And that kind of made me go, that's true. Because then actually what you're doing is stripping out and improving. And it's in that quest for going faster, efficient, accurate, that this game, I think, has its replayability, because then you can start ripping out the stuff that you've done at the beginning and thought, right, well, if we've got today's data that we have now and those processes, how good would that have been to solve that puzzle from 10 years ago? And how can I make that more efficient? And where could I see us going in the future? So yeah, that's Wild True Learn. It's a fascinating concept. I really like the idea behind it is around education and just learning more about what we come into contact with so often throughout the day, but don't really understand. So yeah, I found it absolutely fascinating. So yeah, go and check it out. It's in early access. There's constant updates coming through, more and more things being added as we go along. And they seem to really want to work with the community to build up what is a game and a learning resource. And that for me is actually really exciting. So thank you very much for watching. You guys take care. I feel like because I've only solved about 25-30 of the puzzles and played around with bits and bobs, I feel like I'm still really at the early stages of understanding and learning about machine learning and this game itself. So this is going to be the first of probably a couple of videos where I'll kind of circle back to this game to see how this has developed and evolved, and to whether my brain has actually wrapped itself around the actual concept of machine learning, because oh my god, my brain has farted completely. But if that sounds up your street, I strongly suggest you go and grab this straight away, because you'll lose quite a lot of time just sitting there thinking, how can I make that better? So thank you very much for watching. You guys will take care, and keep it going here on Hide Playing Games. Bye for now. This channel is just one of my many projects that cover games, music and film. If you enjoy any of these and would consider supporting me to develop further in the future, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Satorimon. Thank you for your time and for watching the video.